So for me, I had a pretty easy time finding people to meet and finding people to become friends with. One thing that I didn't expect was that I found it pretty hard to make friends through classes, and I actually had a lot more luck making friends through other programs, whether that was an extracurricular or there was a program through the university where you were set up with what they called a tutora, or an Argentinian student who volunteered to help international students find their way at first. And it kind of felt like the sort of thing where once you made one friend, you made a bunch more friends through them. So I think the key to it for me was finding one or two connections and then building more and more relationships and getting to know more and more people after that.
I think definitely the hardest thing was the culture and language. So with a lot of my roommates, we got along really well, but there were times in which the conversation could have developed much further, get very personal, because I didn't have the expansive vocabulary to continue having certain conversations. And I think another part as well was just the sense of humor was very different in Italy. So it was oftentimes very hard for me to try to crack a joke with my friends or my roommates, and it just wouldn't land. And then when they would joke amongst themselves, everyone would be in on the joke, but then I wouldn't understand the context, wouldn't understand the history behind it. So I think that was very hard in establishing really good friendships abroad.
So I really tried to take as many experiences as I could within the new country with different Australians. So we had a homestay for 2 weeks, and I made sure that I talked to her pretty much the whole time I was home. I tried not to take myself out of getting new experiences. So even though I was raised Jewish, that meant going to a Christian rock ceremony with her, and that was a really cool experience. So making sure that you're really open to different adventures. Similarly, I was in Sydney for a month, and I had a lot of Australian co-workers at the institute I was doing research with, and I made sure to eat lunch with them every day. And when they said to try out the Easter fair in a certain town, I made sure that I went to that weekend to try to broaden my horizons as much as possible and really trying to take and make those opportunities. However, it's okay that you're not doing something completely new every day. Take a breath. You're gonna be there for a while. Do what's going to make you happy and fulfilled.
I was the only Middlebury student in my dorm, one of the only Middlebury students in Prague. So it was a bit of a challenge to break into these different friend groups that, some of which came to Prague together to study abroad. It was also very rewarding because it allowed me to see a different perspective on college. And everyone was very welcoming, so it certainly worked out. But it was difficult, because I had something that made me different from the start, and that wasn't necessarily the norm. Additionally, obviously the language barrier. Being in a Czech-speaking country and not knowing very much Czech at all was difficult. That kind of separated me from local people in a very real sense. I did my best to learn the language, but one semester isn't very long, and I was studying other things at the time. So, if I could have a chance to go back, I would have liked to have immersed myself more in the language.
Like I mentioned earlier, I think it's very hard to integrate sometimes in Italy because you are at these universities where friends know each other for 10 years or since they were very little. So once they see sort of a foreigner in the classroom or a new student, it's kind of very difficult to integrate into their friend group just because it's already been established. So I think the best way to make new friends in Italy, at least, is just introducing yourself in the classroom to the other students, and just finding really cool events. At least in Italy, there's a lot of really cool cultural events, be it at museums or theaters, and that's just a good place to meet new people. And a lot of students like to go to hora di aperitivo. It's your pre-dinner, I guess you could say, and you just go to a bar and order a drink, and then you have a buffet of snacks. And so that's a really good way to meet new students because everyone's in the plaza during that time.
There were definitely times when I was abroad when I felt lonely or down, and I think that's a really natural part of going abroad, and I think it's something that maybe people don't talk about enough. But I think that one thing that helps the most is just acknowledging that that is normal, because I think what happens a lot of times is that people feel bad and then they feel bad for feeling bad because they feel like they're supposed to be having so much fun because they're abroad and it's this crazy amazing experience. But recognizing that being in a new environment and speaking a new language all the time is stressful and is probably bound to cause some hard feelings can be part of what makes you feel better.